Welcome back to Cancer Research Africa. I am Professor Folakemi Odedina, and I really am delighted to serve as the guest chief correspondent for the Cancer Research Africa special segment on establishing successful research scholarship. I'm going to be given the series number 2, which is going to also continue to focus on golden nuggets before I invite my colleagues to come and give their presentation. We have had such outstanding reviews about the first one that we recorded, and the questions are coming in. The questions are coming in from our subscribers. Again, as a reminder, watching the segment is free. For you to get access to the PowerPoint slide deck, you have to subscribe to Cancer Research Africa, and you will be provided the information to do this. And then you email Cancer Research Africa and let us know that you are a subscriber, and you get access to all the PowerPoint slides. Now, when you get access to all the PowerPoint slides, do not share, because it's meant for you alone. This is part of academic integrity, so do not share. We want to make sure, remember in my first segment, I talked about academic integrity, so this is part of academic integrity. Do not share the slides. We just want to encourage people to subscribe to the Cancer Research Africa. So I'm excited about going on next to what I'm going to be talking about today, and it's going to focus on what are the highlights a successful grant application. How do you even begin? Remember, we talked about last week, we talked about the fact that we're going to be covering different things. Where are we going to start from? We are literally starting from show me the money. Again, show me the money. So how do you get that grant? This is going to be the next series. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fabulous. The first learning objective for the series is to recognize the components of a winning grant. What does a winning grant looks like? And I'm going to actually have the series in 3 sections. The first 2 sections I'm going to talk about as series number 2 and 3. The last section, get the reviewers excited, is going to be much later on when we've covered all other segments by some of my outstanding colleagues. So you can imagine, how do you increase your chances to being successful in writing grant? How do you increase those chances? Number 1, great rapport with your program staff. Number 2, you have to have outstanding grant writing skills. Number 3, you have to get the reviewers excited. So right now, I'm going to focus on how to have that rapport with your program staff. 2 segments, as I talked about, making your program director your best friend and the grant writing components. I'm going to cover first right now, making your program director your best friend. So how do we do that? So how many of you, let me just kind of start with 2 questions. How many of you have ever contacted a program director? And I said your program director on purpose, because once you think about writing a grant, the people who are listed on there as scientific officers or program director, you start imagining them as yours, not somebody in the outspace, right? They are your program director. You start imagining them as your program director. So how many of you have ever contacted your program director while you're writing a grant? How many of you are afraid or get nervous about your program director? At the beginning of my career, I was feeling like you. It was like, I can't contact my program director, or I can't contact a program director because of what? I'm disturbing them, right? I really don't want them to see me as being troublesome. And they are making the decisions, part of the decisions, or they're going to be part of the program portfolio. So I don't really want to contact them, and you're nervous about contacting them. Now, what I want to do in this segment is let me dispel that myth. Let me dispel that myth. You have to make your program director your best friend, because that's the only way for you to begin to really have this outstanding relationship with them. So let's start. What do program directors do? 2 things. They manage and track the progress of a portfolio of grants. So a program director of any funding agencies they have different portfolio of grants under them, a lot of different portfolio of grants that they manage, right? And then they oversee the management and growth of their program, right? So if you are funded, then they become your program director for real, and they are the one managing your project. So relative to managing and tracking the progress of your portfolio of grants, they look at portfolio to identify whether there are gaps. So they kind of think about, what am I funding right now? Where are the gaps? Where do we really need to add other things to this portfolio? They organize workshops that will address this gap. So they kind of tell you about the gaps or what is coming up or what is going to be released as part of their funding portfolio. And they talk to investigators to gather information on the latest research. Yes, think about the third point. They talk to investigators to gather information on the latest research. A program director does not know it all. Sometimes a program director will reach out to the people within their portfolio and other scientists to sort of learn about the latest science and learn about what could be gaps, right? They can do this in a formal way, and they can do this in an informal way. It's so important that you are part of this group who can provide feedback about what you see in the gap in the literature that actually may line up very well with your research program. You are now getting it. What I mean that is so critical that you make your program director one of the best friends. Now, let me tell you about program directors. They want you to be successful. Let me say that again. They really, 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 really want you to be successful, because you being successful makes them to be successful. So it's very key that they are really the group of people that are great. I'm going to tell you, I've been funded since I've been in academics. I have never, remember, about 30 years or more, I have never had a program director that did not want me to be successful. Never. They each want me to be successful. They are as excited as you are about your research. I'm telling you, because you know what? When they have a good portfolio, they also look good. Just like you really are saying, oh, my science is great, my research program is great. And you know, it's not that you are necessarily competing with your colleagues, but you're letting your colleagues know how great your research is. The program directors the same way. They want to let the other program directors know that my portfolio is awesome. The people within my portfolio, they are doing this, they are doing that. They want to brag about you. They want to talk about you. So they are as excited as you are about your research. They are valuable resources and they are advocates for your research. That may be something that you do not know, but I'm telling you right now, program directors are valuable resources. Think about this. Program directors, whenever grants are being reviewed that has to do with their portfolio, they are right there, they are listening in, they're hearing the weaknesses that are being raised by the scientific review panel. They know what they know exactly or what the limitations are. They know where the gaps are. They have a wealth of knowledge, and this wealth of knowledge can be passed on to you. And this wealth of knowledge can allow them to advocate for your research. Because, so for example, if your research is really addressing something that has never been done, and they see it as highly innovative, they can really advocate for your research. So very critical and very things that you want to know. So knowing what they do and knowing what they can do for you, when should you contact your PD, program director, during the grant process, while you're writing the grant? When you make a decision that you are going to submit a grant, that is a perfect time to contact them. When you need information about the guideline, about a policy, when you want to actually ask is about a scientific area and funding for that area. So for example, you might not see something in any RFA, that a proposal guideline about your line of research, but you can contact the program director and say, this is the area that I am interested in. This is the objective. This is the goal. Is it well aligned with this particular guideline? Is it well aligned with this particular RFA? And if it's not, they will tell you, no, it is not. So submitting to this particular grant funding mechanism may not help you. But They might tell you, I do know another grant funding mechanism that could help you, and they will steer you in the right direction. I think you're getting what I'm saying right now. They are very helpful. You can ask them about new scientific directions. What is coming down the pipeline? Is what I'm doing aligned with what is coming down the pipeline? And then you can ask them information about a funding announcement. Look at the funding announcement. Does this apply? Does my aims match? Is what I'm doing in line? They are not going to help you write your grant. So let me be clear. But they can tell you whether the direction that you're going really is well aligned with that funding announcement. So now you know. You should contact them well early when you are about to do the grant. How should you contact your PD? Always send an email first. Always send an email. And your email has to be concise. I always only contact them when my specific aims is developed for that grant, because I don't want to waste the precious time that I have with my program director. I want it to be focused on what I'm thinking I'm writing. So I always write my aims first, and then I contact them. Never call first unless it is a really simple question. Never call. I do not call my program directors out of the blue. You just kind of think about it. You, as a scientist or a scientist in the making, right? And somebody just kind of calls you out of the blue to ask you a question about collaborating with you and things like that. Think about how you're going to feel. I'm sorry, do not just call me. The only people who can just pick up the phone and just call me around them, they are my children, my grandchildren, and my very close friends. Yes, they can call me. They have earned the honor of calling me. But I don't think, your program director, you should just call them around them. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know how busy they are. Send an email, ask for an appointment, ask for a time to talk to them. In your first email contact, state clearly your questions or comments. There may be something that they are able to answer immediately by email. So why waste a phone call? Why do you have to waste talking for a phone call or scheduling a phone call if they ask? So when you email them, go straight to the point. Let them know the RFA that the funding announcement that you're focused on. Let them know what your potential questions are going to be. It could be, I would like for us to talk about the aims that I have developed, right? To see whether it's aligned with this funding announcement. And that way, that one makes a good reason to set up an appointment. It could be a 30-minute appointment. It could be a 1-hour appointment, depending on the magnitude of the grant that you're writing. If you're writing a center grant with different components, 1 hour is good. If you're writing like a small grant or even a full grant, it could be 30 minutes is enough. So your email, clearly state your questions, clearly say your comments, use the subject line appropriately. On the subject line, you can put question about funding announcement, put the name of the funding announcement, so they know from the subject line that you are going to be asking questions. And then you can put very short email, not a thesis email, very short email, go straight to the point. You don't have to be, oh, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. No, go straight to the point. Dear Dr. blah, 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 with respect to the funding announcement, I have a couple of questions. Other questions, I would appreciate your feedback on the questions, period. Or you can add, please let me know if it's better for me to set up a time to meet and talk to you. So be very clear. What kind of feedback would you like? And state your available times over the next week. State when you are available or when you are able to meet with them if you want to. If you must call first, which I am advocating against, because I'm that kind of person that I just don't like people cold calling me also. If you must call first, use the first phone call to ask maybe an urgent question or to schedule an appointment. I'm happy to take questions on this, but I would say email. But if you don't get response to your email within 48 hours, send a gentle reminder. If you don't get, again, within 48 hours, then you can call. And if you don't get them, leave a voicemail that I've sent a couple of emails and see. So that's kind of how you do that. But cold calling, I really would advise against that. So speaking with your program director, what do? Discuss your research in the context of the agency's interest. Because you are calling about a specific funding announcement, make sure that it's well aligned, unless you're asking the questions whether your research is well aligned with it. Try to include how your project will address the funding agency's objectives, because that is what the program director is all about. The objectives and the goals that they have outlined that they want to achieve. So make that link. Try to show your research will advance the field. This is when you're discussing your specific aims with them and you want to see whether it is well aligned. And once you talk to them, immediately send a thank you email to them, just thanking them for their time and for answering your questions. Okay. What not to do or say to your program director: never cold call. Do not cold call. I really, I cannot say that enough. I've had you just say, never call just to chat. I mean, when you call, you have an appointment and you're kind of chatting about the weather, chatting about this. No, that's not. You know, you can say brief greetings, go straight to the point. Don't just call without doing your homework. It is horrible if you ask a question and your program director says on page 28 of the program announcement, paragraph 3, it says this. That means you never even read the program announcement before calling them. So that's another thing that we're going to be talking about, you know, when you are planning to write your grant. Read the instructions again, and read the instructions again. There's nothing much more that really brings this message to your program director that you haven't even read the program announcement than to have questions that have been clearly answered in the program announcement. So just kind of make sure that you have read the program announcement. Don't try to sell your work by criticizing the work of others. Do not bring up any person or the work or indicate the work of any person when you are talking to your program director. Face your market. For those of you who are in Africa, you understand what I'm trying to say. Face your market, face you. Talk about your research project. Talk about questions that you have, not any other person. That's the way that you speak with your program director. I hope this has been very helpful. Very short segment on how to become best friends with your program director. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this point in time.
Thank you so much for that lovely presentation. I also want to say thank you for clarifying not to talk about the weather or talk about anything off topic with your program director, because I'm sure by hearing the phrase, make your program director your BFF, one, including me, would assume that we could just talk about anything with them. And I'm glad that you reminded us that we need to stay on focus, stay on topic, and keep it professional. Now, my question for you is, can you give us a specific example of a conversation or any dialogue that you had with your program director that helped make your program director your BFF?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so first of all, let me just back up. There's going to be a point that you have developed such a strong relationship with your program director that those weather, whatever, dancing, culture will be appropriate when you meet each other outside questioning that you have about, about your research. But when you are contacting them and you don't have that kind of relationship, and it's, especially when it's all about the science at that point in time, the usual greetings, but go straight to the point, because they have other people that they have to talk to. So you have to make sure that you're not really wasting their time or your own time as well. Like I said, first presentation that we said, remember, time is what? Currency. So it is currency. So you don't want to waste that time. You don't want to waste that time. So I have really, it's very hard for me to bring that example because I have had great relationship with quite a number of program directors. Great relationship with quite a program director. But I'm going to talk about one. I'm not going to name her, but I'm going to talk about one that we had when we were writing a grant for National Cancer Institute that focuses on what is known as a P20 mechanism. And this P20 grant mechanism is an exploratory mechanism that you write between a minority serving institution and a majority serving institution. And at that time, I was at University of Florida, and we had this partnership with Florida A&M University. I was leading the partnership at University of Florida, and one of my very good friends who is going to be here giving us our own nuggets about being a great scholar, Dr. Renee Reams, who actually is my BFF, was leading the grant at Florida A&M University. And so we talked to the program director at the first onset. Immediately we knew we were going to grant, we reached out to her. And I'm not going to name her, but she's such a great program director. And so we reached out to her and we wrote our specific aims and we sent it to her, right? And she took the time, she met with both of us. She took the time to let us know what are some of the things that we might want to emphasize, what are some of the things that looks as it's not in line with the program director. It was very helpful, right? She spent about 1 hour with us for the very first time. We wrote the grant, we didn't get the grant. And so immediately we didn't get the grant, we emailed her back, right? And we sent an email back to her that we would like to talk to her about a summary statement. And she met with us. And she met with us. The next meeting was almost 2 hours meeting because the P20 grant was a huge center grant that had a lot of components. And she met and addressed, and clarified what were the weaknesses that were being mentioned by the scientific reviewers. Remember, she was in the room when the review wasn't going to be done. Because sometimes when you read the review, it does not translate very well, right? So you have to ask yourself, I don't want to second guess, what does that reviewer mean, right? And so we met with her about 2 hours. By the time we met with her again, at the end of it, although we were discouraged, she was the one that said, you have to resubmit. You have to resubmit this grant. This is an awesome grant. People really liked it. You just, it was about this science was not tight enough. It was about this, was about that. The components are great. I really want to see your P20 in my portfolio. Guess what? Once she said that, it was so encouraging. I mean, Dr. Reams and I went into the meeting with her feeling so discouraged and asking ourselves, do we want to spend the next 6 months of our life revising this grant? And we came out with, wow, this is encouraging, right? And, fast forward, the grant did get funded. And she really was it was like she called us when we knew that it was getting funded. It was like a virtual party with her. And we met her at for the first time. Dr. Reams and I were at the American Association for Cancer Research, and we met her there. The hugs. We had never met her before. The hugs, let's go, let's do this, we're like laughing and high-fiving each other. It was so great. She was a champion. She was an advocate, and she never knew us before. And that is how our relationship evolved, right? From doing that, she did move from the National Cancer Institute to another institute, but she reached out for us to become reviewers for the grant that she was now sharing the portfolio with. So you can see it can evolve. There is no reason not to think. Like, the program directors are not competing with you. They are not applying for those grants. They just want to have a great grant. So that is kind of one of the ways. There are a lot of other examples of program directors, but that stands up in my mind because it was very tough to write that grant.
On average, I know it varies based on your program director, but how long do you personally think it takes for you to get to that level of comfortability with your program director?
It depends on the relationship that is being built. Sometimes a very short period of time. Depending on how you gel also. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it might take up to a year. An average for me, I am a highly collaborative person, and I have the personality that I always feel my program director wants the best of me. So I open up and I open the road of friendship almost immediately. So for me, it's a short period of time. I just find a way to connect with them, while focusing on the science, while focusing on the research. And another thing that I do is that whenever I'm going to a conference, I email them ahead of time and I ask, are you going to be at the conference? And if they're going to be at the conference, I make sure that I attend whatever presentation they are given at that conference and connect with them at that conference. Conferences are a great way to also make sure that you're bonding very well with them because they're there to network with people within their portfolios or interested people who are interested in applying for the grants within their portfolio. So, for me, it's just, I make the conscious effort to be able to do that because, I feel that, doing that really helps my research program and helps them to get to know me and get to know my research program. So it actually depending on you and your program director, I just kind of make the effort to make it as short as possible.
Perfect. All right, Dr. Odedina, I want to thank you so much for joining us and for informing us on how to make your program director your BFF. We took home some amazing tips and tricks that we can put under our sleeve for when the time comes. Now, if any of you guys have any questions for Dr. Odedina or on this PowerPoint that we just went over, go ahead and email us at cancerresearchafrica@outlook.com. I will also go ahead and put the email on the screen so you have a visual so you can see what that looks like. Go ahead and send us any of the questions that you have. We can't wait to continue this segment and have our special guests come on as well. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much.
No, it's a great pleasure. Again, a reminder to all our audiences, the PowerPoints are going to be available free to the subscribers to Cancer Research Africa. Don't forget to subscribe. This is just the beginning. There are going to be a whole lot more golden nuggets coming your way on how to excel in research scholarship.
Exactly. And don't forget to take a screenshot after you have subscribed and go ahead and send us an email and we will respond with the proper slideshow. Thanks again for joining us and we will see you the next time.